Firstly, I would say a big thanks to the organizer of this event and also the session delivered with a lot of experts. Um, it has been really great for me to catch up on the topics from the morning. It has been really good. And also, I'm feeling honored to be part of such an event. And once again, thanks again to the organizers and the sponsors of the event. Going further, this is a short introduction about me. Myself, Satish Veerapandian. I've been into the Microsoft MVP program since 2014 and into the MCT program for the last 2 years. And I've been Microsoft certified on focused especially on collaboration, telephony, as also on the Azure infrastructure side. So currently I'm working with uh, ING Bank, Netherlands, into the CISO cybersecurity team, bringing up the new features on the Azure identity and access management part. Yeah, so going further, in this session, I'm trying to show you how effectively we can use the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint to secure our corporate devices. So the agenda would be like we go through a small introduction about the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, uh, and what are the steps that we have available on onboarding the devices, and how we do the configuration profiles, and then later how we go with tracking and investigating the alerts when we go into such kind of scenarios. So as we all know, Microsoft is a fantastic solution where it provides opportunity to provide a lot of features to the end users. At the same time, it also has a lot of cloud security features, which can be utilized with little bit of additional investment on the licenses, or even at sometimes you can bring some new security features with your existing licensing skill itself. Uh, it makes it more powerful when we utilize the full features of the Microsoft Cloud security features into the existing ecosystem, which has been currently utilized by all the users. So when coming to talk about the securing the endpoints, the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint is a Microsoft delivered cloud endpoint solution where you have the opportunity to do a centralized configuration and the administration of the APIs. Um, I would say it's more, one step ahead than the regular antivirus solution, because apart from the regular antivirus, we have something called attack surface reduction, the endpoint detection and response, and also the automated investigation. All these things we would see in the upcoming few minutes. And apart from that, you also have, the support always from the Microsoft threat experts. So it's something like the Microsoft threat experts are evaluating the current security, the security vulnerabilities which is coming in the market, and and they always try to provide a solution as soon as possible. So this Microsoft Defender for Endpoint is always actively detecting the advanced threats, and it also glues well with your Microsoft ecosystem. That's also one of the benefit. And going further, a question might also come from all of our mind: why we need to go with the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint? Because there could be already infrastructure invested on a organization. For example, they can have any third-party antivirus solution. Uh, they could be comfortable going with that. Uh, but the question is like there are a lot of benefits while we are planning to bring to the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, because with the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, you can completely manage your entire ecosystem. It's not only for the Microsoft Windows. You can also manage the server, Mac, Linux, iOS, Android. Everything it can be managed. Um, and the best option is like tooling options. Like how do you onboard them? Because when you try to bring any third-party antivirus solution, there is a possibility it supports only Windows, it supports like only Mac OS, or there is no possibility the support can be extended to Linux server, iOS, or Android. But here in this case, it's just one solution which could be managed from the Microsoft portal, and then you have also the tooling option to onboard them easily to all these endpoints. Um, and the other options, like on the advantage, honestly speaking, these two tabular columns, I have taken it from the Microsoft Docs website. Yeah. So when we talk about the advantage, you see, even for example, if you want to do a network protection, because there are also few cases, few cases in the customers where they have a separate solution for the network protection. They could have a WPAD implemented, or they could have any kind of additional security that is implemented on their proxy. But in the Microsoft Defender, even you can have a network protection. For example, if you want to allow the RDP connection only from corporate endpoints and not coming from public networks, you could also control that if the devices is completely managed in the Intune. Uh, and coming to talk about the file blocking, you also have opportunity here to do the file blocking. You can also stop and quarantine files in your network, even for your network drives. So the support which you have in the Microsoft, the support and the features which we have in the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint is not only limited in a traditional way. Okay, it can be supported only for the Windows devices. No, it can be even supported for your network drives. So all these kinds are possible through the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. And also the other benefit is like there is a lot of data that you can represent it. Like for example, if you want to see what is the security posture of your organization, you could always go to the Defender portal. It gives you the overall security posture of the endpoints in your organization when you onboard the devices to the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. And on top of this, like you also have the technical support because by using the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, like you just have one company to call for the technical support. Because as we all know, in the couple of last, in the last 3 years, the way all the companies have adopted to the Microsoft Cloud is massive. And most of them are habituated and they are using the Microsoft services, like for example, Office 365 Suite, and most of them are using Windows 10. So in this case, it's something like you don't need to bring another third-party ecosystem into this part. That will be a little bit complicated and also not compatible with your services. So in this case, like you have just getting one additional plan or service from Microsoft, which Microsoft has already invested a lot of research and development on that area. So you get a better solution and a streamlined support from them. And going further, yes, the Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection is made of a combination of Windows 10 features and the services running with the Microsoft Cloud. I could say one example. For example, when you go to the Windows 10 or 11 clients, you could see the Microsoft Threat Intelligence Service running. So, like the Microsoft has developed even the operating system in a way like, okay, it needs to be compatible with the security solution that we are going to implement. So it's something the threat intelligence service collects all the data that is required just in case if your device is onboarded to the Defender for Endpoint. The threat intelligence service collects the data locally and then it sends to the Microsoft Defender for Cloud analysis and finding the ongoing issues that can happen in your environment. So this also one example like where the Windows 10 clients or Windows 10 or 11 clients is perfectly matching and aligned with the security solution which Microsoft is offering. And the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint also empowers your enterprise network to rapidly stop attacks. For example, how it can stop the attacks. You have an option. You have the new option, which is like the attack surface reduction. With attack surface reduction, you can do a lot of things, which we would have a look at them in a few minutes. And the next generation protection antivirus, because it's not a regular antivirus which we are talking about, because the antivirus which is provided, the Microsoft Defender for antivirus is one of the next generation antivirus which has a lot of capabilities to detect the advanced vulnerabilities and threats. And coming to talk about the endpoint detection and response, even the endpoint detection and response would be able to proactively identify any alert, any malwares or viruses that's trying to do some activities in your endpoints, and then it would be able to detect them. So combination of attack surface reduction and endpoint detection response gives you, empowers your enterprise to rapidly stop the attacks and also evolve your defenses to the next level. And on top of it, like you have the Microsoft threat experts, because when you go with the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint Plan P2, you always have the analysis of your files that is sent from your side by the Microsoft threat experts. So that is also one of the benefit. And the best part is like all these things can be done in a centralized configuration and administration. If you're more towards the development part, you can also do the APIs. That is also possible with the Defender for Endpoint now. So it gives you a centralized configuration and administration. And the best part is you also can onboard all these services to the Windows clients, Windows servers, Linux servers, Mac OSs, mobile, Android, iOS, and also the network devices. For instance, you have a network appliance which is running on a Ubuntu, or which is running even on a Windows. Then if that network appliance is capable of onboarding to the Windows Defender, just installing an agent on them would be able to help them reporting to the Microsoft Windows Defender. And also you have, if you have any IoT devices, even now Microsoft is supporting onboarding the IoT devices into Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, which is also one of the best options. So keeping all this in mind, helps you to have just one strong security solution that can help in supporting the different flavors of the client and the servers that is running in your environment. So going further, this is some prerequisites that we need to have in our mind before we onboard our devices to Windows Defender. So on the left column, again, this is also the comparison plan that is taken from the Microsoft Docs website. So if you see the plan, we have Defender for Endpoint Plan 1, and then we have Defender for Endpoint Plan 2. The main difference between the Defender for Endpoint Plan 1 and Plan 2 is in the Plan 2, you can do the device discovery, the device inventory, if your devices are Azure AD hybrid joined, or if your devices are managed by the Intune, then you could do the device discovery and device inventory in the Defender for Endpoint 2, but in the Endpoint 1, it's not possible. And also you can do and also in the Endpoint 2, Endpoint Plan 2, we have the option endpoint detection and response. That is one of the advanced feature which you do not have in Endpoint Plan 1. And in the last option, last one is like it supports for Windows, non-Windows, and even for the Linux. But for Plan 1, it doesn't have support for the Linux as well. If you ask me, I would definitely suggest and urge to go for the Endpoint Plan 2 because having extra features, I would suggest to invest a little bit extra. And then you also have the one important point in Endpoint Plan 2, which is advanced hunting. So advanced hunting is something like if you are really interested and you have a passion towards the custom query language. Even the Microsoft Defender in the backend, it uses the custom query language through the log analytics workspace. That's how it is designed. So you can do the advanced hunting through the custom query language. So that is one of the major benefit of having the Endpoint Plan 2. And apart from that, there are few add-ons. For example, if you want to do some controls security in the browser extensions, you need to get some separate licensing for that, for the network share analysis as well. But all these things, it's better always, excuse me, it's always better you have a discussion with your Microsoft sales partner to see if there are any offerings that is coming from your side, from their side. Okay, so now coming to talk about the prerequisites for the Windows. In this, today we are going to talk only about onboarding the Windows. So firstly, for the prerequisites for the Windows, they need to meet some requirements to onboard them. So as I said, they need to have the Microsoft Threat Intelligence Service running, which is which will be turned on and running by default when you onboard them. And the other important thing is the diagnostic track service. This diagnostic track service is also running by default, but that could be a scenario where it is stopped for any reason. So it's always important to have validate that your diagnostic track service is running on all the Windows 10 clients, because this diagnostic track service is required to report the cyber data to Microsoft Defender for Cloud. And the next one is coming to talk about the internet. It requires 5 megs a day, because this 5 megs is required for sending a bandwidth, sending the data to Defender for Cloud. That could be a scenario where it can require additional bandwidth. For example, during a troubleshooting scenarios, your admin team wants to download something from the devices, or Microsoft support needs to download some logs. That could consume a little bit of bandwidth, but that's exception, and it's not going to happen very frequently. So in short, like if you have just 5 megs a day, then it should be perfectly fine. That could also be a scenario where, for instance, you're trying to onboard the devices where they don't have the direct connectivity to the internet, because there are most of the organizations where corporate networks, if they have internet connection through the proxy, then you should add these, exclude these URLs into the proxy whitelist, or if you should have something like a telemetry proxy server, so where the devices can reach to that particular telemetry proxy server, and from there they could establish a connection and download all the files and send the data. So this is one of the important points that you need to keep in mind. Uh, and apart from that, the prerequisites part, I don't see there is any other things. Excuse me. And one important part is to onboard the servers. There is a separate licensing, which is like the Microsoft Defender for Servers Plan 1 and Microsoft Defender for Servers Plan 2. So you need to have a separate licensing for onboarding your Windows Defender servers as well. So going further, to onboard your devices, yes, onboarding the clients to the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, it can be a little bit of time-consuming task. There are multiple ways to onboard the Defender for Endpoint, because it could also depend on how your environment is set up. For example, the environment is currently, like managing all the endpoints through the SCCM, or they are they have any third party like JAMF. So that is also option how to do that. Um, but if you're already having the devices managed in the Intune, the easiest way is like you just check the devices, whatever it's in compliant state, and then you're just going to create a configuration profile and onboard them. We'll have a look at that in the demo in few minutes. Yeah, so let's just go back to the portal and have a look at the demo. Just a minute. Yeah, so this is the demo which I have. So here, like the first thing, as I stated, you could go and get a subscription. And like Microsoft is offering a subscription for 3 months to evaluate the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. Yes, at the moment, even they are offering P2, which is really good. P2 has a lot of extra things to explore. So I would say you can just go and your tenant just request a trial, which is coming for 3 months, which is really good for exploring all these features. So the first thing is you have to get the licensing, sorry, the plan, which is P1 or P2, and then the next thing what you need to do is you need to come to the Intune, and in Intune you have the endpoint security, and in the endpoint security you have to come to the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, which is present all the way in the down. So in most of the cases, you would see the connection status is not enabled. So which means like you have purchased this service from Microsoft, but you need to initiate a connection from the Microsoft Intune towards the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. So just in case if you don't see the connection status enabled, so what you need to do is just scroll all the way down. You have something open the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint admin console. So when you go and open the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint admin console, it would bring you to this screen. And over here, you have to scroll all the way down, settings. And in the settings, you need to click on the endpoints. So when you click on the endpoints, you scroll down, excuse me. And also there is something called data retention. You can also set the data retention. For example, this will determine the period of time, how long the defender can retain your data in the cloud instance. So the default is set to 180 days. That's the maximum value. So if you want something to go beyond this, then you should raise a separate a ticket with Microsoft and see the possibility according to your agreement with Microsoft. Okay, this is one of the things. So coming to onboarding, so you come down, you see in the device management, there are two things, onboarding and offboarding. So when I go into the onboarding part, over the right, I see the operating system to start onboarding the process. So like when I click on the drop down, I can see Windows 7. I don't recommend Windows 7. Even Microsoft support stop supporting Windows 7. So you could choose Windows 10. And when you, for example, when you choose Windows 10 and the deployment method, you have to choose the deployment method. So the deployment method could go with the 10 devices. Let's say if you have a handful of device, which is a very small environment, you could you see like they are not onboarded in the Intune. They have the separate MDM solution. In this case, in those scenarios, you can just simply use a local script and then just simply download the onboarding package. Just follow the steps, because when you see the steps in the onboarding package, they are very clear. It should be easy for you to proceed further. So this onboarding package, and then later you should be able to onboard the devices. And the next step is like something, if you have a doubt if the device is as onboarded successfully on the client, you can just go and run the detection test. There are multiple ways to see them on the admin portal as well, but just in case if you're delegating this task to help desk support, they can go run the local script for 10 devices, and they can run the detection test after a few minutes, because they need some synchronization time. It's usually 2 to 3 hours maximum, and after that, when you run the detection test, it should be successful. And the next one is like, for example, if you want a group policy, if you're already a group policy, you can also do a group policy deployment by downloading the onboarding package and pushing to all the devices. And the next one is like, excuse me, the Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager. And if you have the devices managed through the SCCM, you can use this option. And again, there is onboarding package, which has a detailed steps on how to do that. When you go for the mobile device management, if there is a third-party MDM which supports downloading onboarding package via the Microsoft 365 Defender portal, then it can be done with in that approach. But for doing Microsoft Intune, this is not the way. We would see it in a different method. And there is also possibility you could have a VDI. For example, there are a lot of VDI persistent clients that is present in your network. In that case, you have to download the VDI package. It's kind of a golden image, as you do even for the Teams deployment. So this needs to be again installed on the VDI endpoints. That is the steps which is described very clearly on the package. You can just simply follow them. And while coming to talk about the other options, you also have the Windows Server clients, and also Windows Server 2012 and 2019 and 2022. It is more or less the same how we do for the Windows clients. While coming to talk about the Mac, you have to do two things. First, you have to download the installation package, and then you have to download the onboarding package. There is a little bit of a two-step process approach for the Mac. So first, you have to download the installation package, and then you have to download the onboarding package. So this is one of the important thing. And then you also need to make sure real-time protection is turned on the device. So that's one of the things which we have noticed, especially for onboarding the Mac. And for the Linux, it is just only one onboarding package, and then you have to, after completed, you can also run a curl detection test, and then it would say, okay, if if the defender is onboarded, because basically when you run this, it is downloading a file from the eCore, and then it is just trying to see if your Microsoft endpoint detection is able to detect this the test malicious file. So if it is able to detection, then a new alert will pop up and say, okay, your defender is working basically. So this is one of the options we have. And later, when we talk about how to onboard for the for the Intune, you have to do a different method, which is like you have to come in the advanced features. And in the advanced features, you have a lot of options. Here, there is something called automated investigation. In the automated investigation, it will enables the automation capabilities for investigation and response. This is turned on by default. So I would also say not to turn this off, because this is providing a lot of benefits. So when we scroll down, coming to talk about the Intune, when we scroll down, there is something called Microsoft Intune connection. We have to turn on this for the Microsoft Intune connection. So having this turned on will establish a connection to Microsoft Intune, and then enabling the sharing of device information and enhanced policy enforcement. But one important thing which you need to keep this in mind is your devices needs to be already managed by the Intune. Because if you just in case if you're just simply turning this on and then expecting a device which is completely managed in the SCCM or in a third-party MDM solution, if you're expecting the device to send data, sorry, that's not possible, because the defender would tries to establish a connection and then it won't be able to do a device discovery. So that's one important point. You have to make sure that your devices is onboarded in the Intune if you're going to use this option. If you ask me, I would suggest to say go with this approach, because you can have Azure AD hybrid joint device and simply manage your devices in Intune and turn on this connection, which makes your life easier. Or also you can have it directly Azure AD joint device without Azure AD hybrid, have Azure AD joint device, turn on this Microsoft Intune connection, and then manage the device completely in the Intune. That would be easier for you to manage the devices, everything from the on portal. And the next thing is you have to have the device discovery turned on if you have your devices in the Intune, and then if you want to report the new devices that is being onboarded in the Intune, because this will allows the onboarded devices to discover the managed devices in your network and assess the vulnerability. So basically, you can have a different team, because in a large enterprise scale organization, for the security, you have a separate team, and for managing the endpoints, you have a separate team. There could be a scenario where multiple devices are getting onboarded in the Intune, but you really wanted to know what are the devices which is kept unmanaged and they are not onboarded to the different Defender, Microsoft Defender for endpoint. So in this case, if you have this device discovery turned on, then it is really one of the best option, which will allow the devices to discover in your organization. Yeah. And also the last option which you have is the preview features. This will allow access to the preview features, and you'll be the first to try the upcoming ones. I would say it's a security part. It's up to you how you can turn it on or off, but I would say better to turn it off if you're going to do it on a production. Excuse me. So having talked about this, let's come back. So the moment when you turn on, after a few minutes, you would see this connection status is enabled. And the next step, what you need to do is you need to turn on Allow Microsoft Defender for Endpoint to enforce Endpoint Security Configuration 1. And then you have to turn on Connect Windows devices above to Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. So you need to turn this on too. The Defender for Endpoint is capable of doing the compliance policy evaluation to a Microsoft Intune devices. So the next thing what you need to do after that is you need to basically onboard the devices, because currently you see the devices is established. Sorry, currently the service is enabled. So the Intune service is able to listen to the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. And then the next step what you need to do is you need to create a device configuration profile to configure Microsoft Defender for Endpoint sensor. That is the most important thing. So when you click on create a device configuration profile, for example, I am just typing pilot Windows 10 devices, and then going on next. So here I just click on the configuration settings and next. Um, I think there is something problem going on. Let me reinstate it. Okay, create a device configuration profile. Pilot Windows 10. Yeah, here it is. So you should get a message something like a block sample sharing for all files. I would say please do not turn this on, because if you turn this on, then your endpoint, your devices are not sharing the sample files. So then this is not a great security solution if you turn this on, because simply you're blocking the sample sharing of files to the Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Just leave it not configured. And the next one also, you see expedite the telemetry reporting frequency. If you turn this on, then the endpoint would keep on sending the data, the reporting frequency to the Microsoft Defender for Cloud, so that the Microsoft Defender for Cloud can evaluate and see if there are any issues in your endpoints. It depends on your network, I would say, because if you have a very strong corporate network endpoint, then you can feel free to turn this on. But just in case if you have a weak corporate network or limited bandwidth, where more data cannot be sent during the production hours, and then I would say just leave it not configured and go next. And here you can select the scope tags. Yeah, the scope tags is the one which is uh, present in the Intune, because for example, if you have multiple devices based on the department location and the country on the buildings, so it's always better to define the scope tags. I can have a scope tag for India, I can have a scope tag for Dubai, I can have a scope tag, yeah, for example, for Pakistan. So I can categorize the devices based on every country code, and then it will be easy for me during the deployment as well. And next in the assignment, if you select a group, um, here it's also very important to note that you these are the regular the compliance and hygiene things that we do for the Intune. That is also applicable for the endpoint, because when you select a group, it's always recommended to have a group based on your device OS version, the location, the country, the department. So when you have a device categorized in that way, then it should be easy for you to add them over here, and then assign the profile. And after that, you click on next, the profile will be created. In my case, I'm not going ahead with this because I have already done, which I could show you in the devices. In the Windows, I have the configuration profiles. Over here, I see the onboard MD to Windows. Okay, there is one point. You can also onboard the configuration profile from here. For example, I go and create a profile. I select the platform Windows 10, and later I have to select templates. Over the template, I have to just type in Defender. So here you see Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, Windows 10 or later. So I can do this way also. And one important information that I need to tell is there are multiple ways to onboard the Microsoft Defender and set the Microsoft Defender antivirus solution in your organization. Make sure that you set only one Microsoft Defender compliance policy to your devices, because if you have a Microsoft device compliance policy in Intune, say okay, the devices, I have a compliance policy for Windows in the Intune that states the Microsoft Defender should be turned on the laptops, the real-time scanning should be running on the laptops. And again, I have another compliance policy in the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. And at the end, the device could receive two configuration profiles. So the moment when it receives two configuration profiles, it will have a challenge in using which, and at the times it can conflict. So my suggestion is always, if you have purchased the Microsoft Defender Endpoint Plan 1 or Plan 2 license, just simply go with the endpoint security configuration. And even for onboarding the devices, you just come here and then you can use the device configuration profile. That's the best way to go. So in my case, I have already onboarded. So that's the reason you could see like devices with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint sensor. I have one device. And then list of devices without Microsoft Defender for Endpoint sensor. I have, I can show that. It's taking some time. Okay, so I have other two devices which is not onboarded because I wanted to show this for the demo. So, but I have just one device which is already onboarded. So going further, so this is how we are going to onboard the devices, excuse me, onboard the devices into the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. So the next step is like how you are going to do the security configuration, because the next step is like you need to you just onboard, and there are a few steps which you need to do. Like coming back to the slide, uh, you have done the manage, you have onboarded the devices, and the next step is like you need to um set the configuration and the services settings, what you need to do with these devices, because there are multiple ways to configure the endpoint settings. So we'll see them in the upcoming the demo. So the first task is you have to go in the overview monitor. You see here there is a overview monitor. So in the overview, the important part is like in the overview, you can define the security baselines. Like the security baselines can be defined, for instance, Windows 10 devices. I can show the security baselines. So these are the security baselines. You can define the security baselines like uh, I want something for the Windows 10. Okay, let me go the Microsoft Defender for endpoint baseline. When I go into the endpoint baseline, I've already created one for this demo. I'm going to show that what is it. So when you see the baselines in the properties, in the configuration settings, let's say for the Microsoft Defender, when I scroll down, I can have, okay, turn on real-time protection. This is the baseline I need to have. Um, and then I can also say scan all downloaded files and attachments. Yes. And then I can also say the scan the removable drives using full scan. These are one of the really benefit option. Like, uh, I'm like I'm really not sure if you could see these options in other third-party antivirus solution, because you're getting all these options in the complete Microsoft's the cloud ecosystem itself. So here, like for example, if someone is someone is plugging in their USB drive or their hard disk, then you should be able to scan them. So which is also really helpful in preventing any kind of vulnerabilities that is coming from an external hard drive. And this is something you can do in the Microsoft Defender. And then, for example, if you talk about the device guard, you can turn on the credential guard. These are the few things which you can do it on the Microsoft Defender for endpoint baseline. And the same thing you can even do the Microsoft Edge baseline. So if you have Microsoft Edge browsers, you can also define the Microsoft Edge baseline. So in the Edge baseline, like I have created one which I'm going to show you. So here, like I can say the allow user no I think, yeah, this one, prevent bypassing Microsoft Defender smart screen prompts for site. So for user trying to access a site, the Microsoft Defender is prompting and saying, okay, this is not a good site for you. You could simply prevent bypassing the Microsoft Defender by just turning this on. That's one of the benefit which you have. And also you have a lot of other options which you can specifically target for the Microsoft Edge. So this is the security baselines we have. We also have something security baseline preview, which is for the Microsoft 365. If you want to explore that, you can do that as well. And coming again to the security task at the bottom, you could see something like uh, a list which could show you, as a result of the security baselines, the devices which is not meeting the baseline values. In our case, we don't have anything, so that's the reason it is empty. Just in case if you find anything, then you'll be able to see the status, source, impacted devices, and then some due date as well. This would be easy for you to monitor. This is the overview how you to set the security baselines. Coming to the next level, which is how to manage them. So there are multiple ways to manage them. So like, for example, when you go into the antivirus solution, so you can create a multiple antivirus solution and define it for per department, devices, or country. So here I have created one antivirus solution for Windows 10. I could show that for you. So I'm just going to the configuration settings, edit. So if you see here, I can also select the email scanning, which is really good. For example, if your emails are downloaded in the OST or a PST format, it could even scan that particular files. Even if you're downloading the .eml format, it could even scan that particular files. So this is really a good option to prevent any suspicious attacks that is coming from an email. That is also a really good option. And you also see like allow full scan on removable drive. We can also do some customization. And also if you want, for example, some exclusion, you can also do. Like, for example, there is some exclusions that is coming from the developers where they are sharing the files. They wanted to keep that locally in their repository, or if they are sending that in the email, you can add that in the excluded extensions over here, even in the excluded paths, even the excluded processes. Even if any processes coming back in the task manager, you can also do the excluded processes. So these are the some kind of further customizations that you could do on the antivirus policies. I really like this antivirus policy because it helps you a lot to specifically give based on your requirement. And also you see here, it gives you a very good summary. So on the summary, it says, okay, these are the unhealthy endpoints. What are the devices that having the pending updates, pending full scan? And then, for example, there is inactive agents that could also show me here. And then if you see there is any active malware across the categories, that could also show. I see this summary to be really valuable for a person as a IT admin who can just come in every day. He can log in. He could see the antivirus policies and see what are the unhealthy endpoints. There is also a separate Tableau column about the unhealthy endpoints. It could give you the list of the devices which is having unhealthy endpoints. You can simply export it and send it to the help desk. Or also, if you can select the device and you have an option to restart them, do a quick scan. Also, you can sync. That is a very good option to update the signatures. I see this a very good, fantastic opportunity to deploy this based on every department or the every country requirement. Excuse me. So the next part which we're going to talk about is the disk encryption. So the disk encryption is nothing but it is going to enable the BitLocker on your devices. So like when you enable the BitLocker, then it is something like, for example, if your devices is lost or stolen, then there is no way the data is going to be hacked, or sorry, the data is going to be taken by a person who is trying who's stolen the laptop. So like you can also see the devices report. For example, when I go to the devices in the monitor, for example, when you see the encryption report, yeah, this is the place. I remember. Okay, so here in this encryption report, in my demo, I have three stations, three devices. So you see, like the devices, the demo device which I have is encrypted, but the other two devices is not encrypted. Like I can also do as an admin, they can just go to the encryption report and see the devices which is not encrypted. Uh, just create a profile over here, like which is the disk encryption profile, and target only those devices. So those devices have the BitLocker enabled. So when they have the BitLocker enabled, that gives you an additional security when the devices are lost. And then, for example, even a help desk or local support accidentally decommission the device improperly. So in those cases, it can help you a lot. So I would always vouch to go with the disk encryption policy. Going further, we are going to talk about the firewall. So in the firewall, you can also have a further customization, as I said in the earlier stage of the presentation. For example, if you want to allow the RDP access only from a corporate network or from a place where it is connected through a VPN, then it is possible. I have created one. For example, I can show you that. So here, this is the security firewall profile. When I when I go down, so you see, like for example, in the configuration settings, um, I'm clicking on edit. In the edit, I'm going further for the edit rule. You see, like that is something I have defined it the inbound access only for the RDP, which is the interface type is remote access. And then I have given the port, which is 3389, as we all know for the RDP. And the network type, this is really interesting. I really like this because I could categorize this for profile type. They have this value populated by default. So I could say the profile type is domain, which is for the corporate networks. The profile type is private, which is for networks which is classified as private. So I can classify my trusted location as private. I can also classify my VPN proxy server IPs as private. So in that case, admins would be able to connect only from the domain networks for the RDP. So the rest of the things, like for example, if they try to connect from a public or or a current, yeah, of course, it's not going to happen. So you can also define multiple configuration settings in the firewall on the same rule, which is also really interesting. I really like this option, and I will also suggest to go with this approach rather than investing extra maintenance and then on the network security part. So if you want to do something on the firewall level, I would also suggest to explore this part, which is really good. So going back to the presentation, yeah. So these are the security baselines which we saw about the overview. So in the overview, basically we had the antivirus, we had the firewall rules, endpoint. Okay, so there is one important thing which we forgot to talk about is the endpoint detection and the response. Okay, so the next thing is the attack surface reduction. So in the attack surface reduction, it can target certain software behaviors. Like for example, certain software a person downloaded on your laptop, and then he is trying to he's trying to do something or like he's trying to download that, and then that is triggering some malicious activities. These kind of behaviors, the apps that don't initiate, for example, when he runs an executable file, it is trying to take the credentials from his credentials god. All these things would be able to identify from by the attack surface reduction. So in the attack surface reduction, I can show you. This is really interesting. When you create a policy, the platform Windows
Uh,
10. You
sorry,
have
sorry, Sadish, to interrupt. 10 more minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you. In the attack surface reduction, you have a lot of options, like for example, attack surface reduction rules. So the attack surface reduction rules can target behaviors that malware and malicious apps typically use to infect the computers. You can do this. And the next one is like you can do the exploit protection. So the exploit protection, you can also help protect against the malware that uses exploits, all the things. And the next one, you talk about the device control. You can also do the device control. For example, I can create device control profile and say, okay, I'm not going to allow plugging in a USB or external hard disk to the laptop. That is possible with the device control. Uh, we have the app browser isolation. There are a lot of things in the attack surface reduction. I would definitely suggest to go with the attack surface reduction. And the next one, which you're going to talk about, is the endpoint detection and response. So the endpoint detection and response is something, additional capabilities in the defender to provide advanced attack detection. So the security analysts can prioritize the alerts effectively and gain visibility in the full scope of a breach. That's one of the option. I would suggest to always enable the attack surface detection first, and then do the endpoint detection and response. Or you can, when you have the endpoint security, I would always suggest to have both of them. That would help you a lot to proceed further. So we can talk a little bit more on the manage, but constraining about the time. I'm just stopping it here, but I would suggest to go further on this part by by enrolling yourself for the P2 trial and exploring all these things. So while coming to talk about the dashboard, how do you do that? So here in the dashboard, you see on the left side, you have something called okay, devices. So in the devices, when your devices are onboarded to the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, you could see them here. So in my case, I have two of them onboarded. For example, when I click on the first one, it could also give you all the information about the security info, how the device is joined, OS, health state, IP addresses, and network activity, and all the things. And one important thing to tell you is do not get panic if you see multiple exposure level here, because most of them, what I see at the moment is false positive. So you need to be sure, like which is the right one. So just have a look at them and mark them as false positive, or if it is really malicious, you can do that. So I would show you that in a few minutes. So in the security recommendations, you see something like this. It's asking me to update the Git on my laptop, update the Node.js. I can just select this, and then I can, yeah, I think it's, yeah, I can select this, and there is something called report inaccuracy. This is for the false positive, but here in this case, yeah, this I have to update it, so I'm just leaving it as is. So even for the software inventory, it could show you what are the software inventory that you have it, and even for the browser extensions, you can see what are the browser extensions you have it, and for the discovered vulnerabilities, you can see what are the vulnerabilities that is discovered over here. If you find them something really having an issue, then you can select that and you can select isolate device. So that will completely remove the device from the network, but retaining connection to the Microsoft Defender. And you have something called report device inaccuracy. This is for marking false positive. And if you're really into the Microsoft Defender, if you're really into customer query language, you can just simply go to the Go Hunt, which is really nice feature which you have. So in the Go Hunt, you can really run the query by modifying the custom query language. For example, this is the default one I have. So it says take 100. I can also modify this to take 10. For example, running the query, it gives me the result of, okay, how many devices, how many devices, this is just only for the Surface Pro, and then it gives me all the report. I can further define the custom query language based on the requirement. And also there is option to export this and give it for any analysis to your SOC team. Um, and still, if you want to do something for the evaluation, even in the endpoints, you have something called evaluation and tutorials. And in here, you have something called tutorials and simulations. Here you can go and run a simulation attack test, for example, a backdoor or automated investigation. All these things are possible to check how strong is your network. So, there is a lot we can talk about Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. I don't think, it's 1 hour sufficient to complete even uh, the configuration itself. So, talking about the analysis part, it's quite a long thing which we can discuss. Having said that, I would say, I can stop here for the session because you have only a few minutes left. So I would say, like, Defender for Endpoint is one of the best solution for managing your endpoints in your organization, and I would definitely say to uh, explore the trial option from your side. Having said that, I think um, this is my email ID. If you have any questions, you can always drop an email to me on this, and then I'm really happy to answer that from my side. And this is the last few minutes is for the Q&A. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them.